Hello ladies and gentlemen, WillE here. At the end of my Was It Any Good Though series, I came to a conclusion that I suspected would be the case, but wouldn't have truly known until I'd looked at each class in the level of detail that I did. And that is that every class can be considered good, and while some are more favoured, there is really no class that is just straight up bad or useless. Each class has their own unique identity and iconic spells. Not everyone needs to have a CC, not everyone needs to have an interrupt or even a DPS cooldown, and while some classes can do things others cannot, it's often also the case vice versa. So in this new series, I want to look at the ways you can make the most out of your chosen class and find out how to play to your class's strengths. The points I'll be looking at will differ from class to class in relation to their strengths, as they aren't all shared across the board. Today I'll be looking at the Druid, and we're going to cover these points: their solo play, gold farming, specialization diversity, open world PvP, as well as a bit of battleground stuff, and some macros and add-ons that can help you out. So let's kick this series off with our nature-loving friends, the Druids, one of the classes that receives a bit more harsh criticism than it should in my opinion. In many ways though, this criticism gives more opportunities for you to prove yourself and excel in many different aspects of the game. This class isn't a free pass to any group or raid like some others are, and needs a bit more work to get a great end result. The key strengths of the Druid really lie in its capability when being alone. Sure, Druids can fit well and adapt to any group, but we're looking at the areas where they really excel here today, and I believe that largely comes down to what the Druid can achieve on its own, where it can put that flexibility to real use. Druids by themselves are very adept at filling any role. Their leveling experience has to be one of the best, and they have many different things going for them. 1 to 10 is a little bit slow, but you can get it out of the way in around 3 hours or so generally if you have a reasonable idea of what you're doing in your starting area. Then at 10 you get your burr form, giving you a new form and less reliance on that mana bar which keeps disappearing after every single mob you defeat. Level 20 and beyond is where things really start picking up, especially once you get a few points into your cat form abilities. Mixing your leveling experience between healing up between fights and then taking enemies out in cat form works very well. Druid progression path through the different forms keeps things pretty fresh for them too. You know what else is good about Druid leveling? Travel form. Instant cast 40% speed is a much bigger deal than it sounds. Whilst it's not as good as a mount at level 40 or 60, it's actually better for a period of about 30 seconds, and the fact that it's instant cast gives you a pretty easy escape option against, well, just about anything really. You can't kill what you can't hit. Your ability to remove both curses and poisons eventually after a few levels is pretty handy too. There are many really annoying effects that you can get hit by while leveling, especially damage over time effects that would break your prowl. Overall, Druids are highly self-sufficient and have a top tier leveling speed. Druids by themselves in the open world really are in their element. How about once you hit level cap though? You need that gold for your epic mount eventually, right? You don't want to rely on travel form forever. Fortunately, you're going to have an easier time generating gold on the Druid than on many other classes. The same self-sufficiency that makes you effective through your leveling process also lends itself well to farming gold in the open world as well as dungeons. Let's have a look at some options you can explore as a Druid for getting loads of gold. First things first, unlike many classes, Druids aren't super reliant on gear to be able to compete at decent farming spots, at least for many open world spots. Areas with mobs reasonably spread out where you can travel quickly between one pack to the next are ideal for Druid's strengths and allow time for your mana bar to regenerate between each fight. You need 900 gold for your epic mount, and it may seem like a pretty huge number. I'd try farming a bit every now and again so you don't get too tired of it, or switching up places to farm at. Certain very well-known methods like farming Felcloth seem to be super saturated, even at off-peak times, to the point where it almost feels like it's not even worth trying it. I am saying this from someone who's playing on a high population PvP server though, so maybe that's just my experience. There are plenty of places to rack up decent gold per hour still. Make sure you check the auction house and see what the market looks like for any of these items before setting off though, as values are going to change quite a bit from server to server. There are a good number of open world spots that you can look at as a Druid, mostly revolving around farming different elementals, specifically elemental earth from rock or greater rock elementals in the south or southwestern Badlands, Elemental Fire is used in greater fire protection potions, which will be in high demand for Molten Core and eventually Blackwing Lure. Fire elementals in Felwood around the northern side are good droppers of this, as are the elementals all around Lava Plume Ridge in the centre of Ungoro. You can also look at farming Essence of Earth from the Earth elementals in northwestern Silithus. These are likely to be pretty busy at all times though, not just for people gold farming, but also farming the reputation for the Hydraxian Waterlords. Essence of Water is pretty good too, available from the toxic monstrosities in Felwood or water elementals in Eastern Plaguelands. All of these elemental items are used in high-end late-game schematics, which should keep their price relevant for quite some time. Give your auction house a look on your server and see what seems the best. If you have a bit more gear and want to try some tougher enemies, you can try the Frostmaw Preservers in Southern Winterspring. Make sure you have the Cache of Maori though, so you are able to collect the Frostmaw Echo, which is used in an item to create an attack power buff. They also drop the recipe for Greater Frost Resistance Potion, which seems to sell for a decent amount on my server at least. Or perhaps you can try the Scarlet Archmages, Eastern Plaguelands. These guys can drop the recipe for Crusader, which once again should go for a decent amount on your server. And obviously, Travel Form plus Gathering Professions are good, not much explanation needed really. I'd recommend open world farming areas over any dungeons, as you really need to hit things face to face in dungeons most of the time, which can make it difficult, especially when you have no easy getaway buttons. Keep in mind that Roots doesn't work indoors, so one mistake can quickly lead you to a hefty reset. You can really pick and choose with Druid when it comes to your talents, and whilst there are some cookie cutter builds for different specs, you really don't want to be respecking all the time if you don't have a fat cash stack. And when I say diversity here, it really comes down to be able to pick a spec that lets you do almost any role to a good degree of success. Since Druids won't be top dog at anything, even if you spec for it, it could be a good idea to go something where you have options to avoid them respec costs. A build like this gives you decent feral and healing options, but isn't really too much for raiding, but more for the open world content, like gold farming or perhaps just leveling. The key points about the spec are really Heart of the Wild, boosting all your stats by a massive 20%, as well as getting Nature's Swiftness, allowing a big instant heal. Improved Rejuvenation gives you a stronger heal over time effect between pulls as well. This specialisation really plays off to the diverse nature of Druids. You may think that it's a limiting factor, having to sacrifice capability in several different areas to have the flexibility to perform in many, but really, it can be considered a benefit when you're saving so much for the cost of respecs over a long period of time. As long as you maintain item sets to complement your specialization, it can perform just fine. For the longest time, there's been this illusion that Classic has a super hard endgame where classes get excluded purely because they aren't the best. Hopefully this illusion has been shattered now, as we've seen how things really play out. Sure, you won't perform as well as somebody who is pure feral or pure restoration. It does come down a lot to what your guild expects from you as well as your own expectations. I mean, no doubt that Druids can perform well in a raid scenario, but I wouldn't really call it an overall strength of the class, whereas not having to respec to go from raid to farming open world is something that other healers struggle to do. Having one specialisation being able to cover so many roles really is a big strength. The Druid hybrid fantasy does play out exceptionally well, I must say. Let's talk PvP. With Phase 2 coming up, you better start preparing yourself for the open world bloodbath that is about to occur. Remember, there are no battlegrounds, so people will be hunting others actively. By the way, slight side note, I can't wait to see every single neutral flight path in level 50 plus zones being camped forever. It's just gonna happen, right? Marshall's Refuge? More like Marshall's Deathfuge? Yeah. In fact, this happened in battle for Azeroth not long ago, and they ended up introducing guards to stop it from happening. But this is Classic, so get ready to see a grey screen for a few months upon reaching certain zones. Anyway, as I was saying, Druids are well suited to open world shenanigans, damage over time effects, mobility, healing, stealth, tanky. They have a lot going for themselves. Once again, we're really looking at 1v1 scenarios here, saying that if you do find yourself in a 1v2, you're playing the best class in the game for escaping as well, with your heal over time effects and travel form. If a fight looks too hot, you have the tools to get away quickly. In terms of matchup against certain classes, the first thing you have to consider is choosing your fights. You have Prowl, it's important you use it. A nice Prowl opener can ensure you get dots rolling and start ticking away. Against certain classes, it can make all the difference. Secondly, there are both Feral and Moonkin options for the open world. Both are centered around outlasting your opponents. Whilst Moonkin has the potential for the huge Starfire crits, many classes will still have ways to come back against this through their own defensives or maybe just healing potions. Also, don't forget Travel and Aquatic Forms in PvP, especially WoW PvP. These are both unique to the Druid and make you so good at long, drawn-out fights. I'll just mention the PvP trinket here quickly as well. They don't work in the same way for every single class. In Classic, the PvP trinket for a Druid can break Charm, Fear and Stun effects. Fear and Stun are both huge to be able to break. Charms are kinda whatever. The only big one that you'll get hit by often is Seduce from Warlock Succubus Pet, but if you're shapeshifted, it's not going to affect you anyway. Breaking stuns and fears gives you a big chance against some of your toughest matchups. Druids can have a solid matchup against anything that's melee based really. Make sure you're fighting outdoors though. Nature's Grasp into a roots is your hard reset button. Remember, warriors can shrink the root though. For those pesky rogues, the PvP trinket is your big edge in the matchup. Getting a rogue into roots and hitting them with a fairy fire is your ticket to the easy reset and winning the fight. Mages can still be an issue. On one hand, people really rate druids against mages, but it's kind of a race to the end. They can blink out of bash or feral charge. Each Frost Nova and Cone of Cold is going to need a shift for you to stay on them, and they can ice block your dots off as well. You need to win before your mana bar is gone from power shifting. It is possible, but it's by no means free if the mage is competent, especially if they have Cold Snap ready. Hunters are a bit of a skill matchup. You need to just really keep in their face with Feral Charge and Dash, and make sure you shift out of form whenever they cast Scare Beast. A Druid versus Druid is really just who goes out of mana first. These can be some seriously long fights, if neither person is able to land a good chain of crits. The hard avoid classes are Warlock, Priest and Shaman. All of these guys have options to remove your heal over time effects or just hit harder with their own damage over time effects, so they'll wear you down a lot faster than you can wear them down. Try and avoid these guys. Once Battlegrounds are released in Phase 3 and 4, Druids have two big things going for them. I'm sure you already know what they are. Druids are the best flag carrying class in the entire game by miles. The mobility they have, as well as being so difficult to lock down, combined with Bear Form, immunity to Polymorph, they have everything going for them to make it an easy time. In Arathi Basin, Druid's durability makes them solid at point defense as well, with their instant cast damage from Moonfire, Bear Form and heal over time effects. It's the exact same thing. Definitely an interesting class in PvP with a really unique playstyle. There's far more finesse to the Druid than just smashing people into the ground in 3 hits, and consequently, a far more interesting playstyle in the long run. In order to play your Druid at a high level, you need to know about what macros and add-ons give you the edge, and I think there are some which are really vital to the class. First of all, power shifting. I've mentioned it once or twice already, and I'm going to tell you what it is now and how you can do it. So this is a super useful macro, applicable mainly to cat forms, that instantly takes you out of a form and then back into it. Using this macro cancels the buff that gives cat form and then essentially instantly recasts it, means you get the benefit of removing slows and roots without incurring a delay between the two shifts. This is largely used in braiding along with the Fiora talent, Wolf's Head Helm, and tracking your energy ticks to instantly gain a large amount of energy as you enter cat form, spend that energy on abilities and then shift in and out again. It's tricky to pick up, highly mana intensive, but it really puts you on the meters as a cat. And I just want to do a quick side note about the viability of actually power shifting as a cat from Horde to Alliance. So on the Alliance side, essentially they have Blessing of Kings and Might, which gives them a pretty sizable advantage as they're just going to have more mana and more attack power. On the Horde side, the only thing you've really got going for yourself is Strength of Earth, Grace of Earth or Wind Fury. Now unfortunately, Druids aren't actually attacking with their weapons, they're attacking with those little kitty cat paws, so they don't get any benefit from Wind Fury. So this does work quite a bit better on the Alliance side. And remember as well that Druids can't use health or mana potions whilst in form. How are you going to drink a potion with them paws after all? This is an RPG, remember? Anyway, this macro can be played around with to drink potions and quickly get back into form. Replace the form and potions with the one you need. This can be good for either tanks, getting a quick health potion off, or power shifting cats for a nice bit of mana. And believe me, you're going to need that mana. Stealth/no stealth macros can be handy to save a bit of bar space, keep your abilities clean between forms. A format like this can be used in order to have similar abilities on a similar bar slot, and this would also work well between Rake out of stealth and Pounce in stealth for some examples. Next up, since Travel and Aquatic Form are separate spells, it can be useful to macro them into one button for all-purpose travel. And just out of interest, this is what they've changed Travel Form to work as on retail as well. This macro will allow you to use Travel Form on land, outdoors, Aquatic Form in water, and Cat Form indoors. Pretty handy to have, I think. As for add-ons, there are a few I can recommend as well to excel on your Druid. These mainly apply to Feral to give you that info that isn't available on the default UI. First of all, an energy tick tracker. Your energy ticks are still tracked outside of cat form, but don't actually add anything to your energy bar. Swap into cat form just before a tick to get that extra bit of energy. I personally like having the extra information available to me. It could just end up winning you a fight doing this. I would check out Energy Watch Reborn for this, and you can add extra bars below your current one to track your energy ticks. Next, tracking your swing timer is a pretty good idea too, especially in bear form where you want to get a swing off before shifting out and then doing another action. For this you can give weapon swing timer a look into, pretty easy to see and to predict your attacks. Finally, I'd give a combo point add-on a look. I don't think they're displayed very well in the default UI. This one's a bit down to personal taste a bit more, I suppose. You can try Nug Combo Bar to have a more visible option for combo points, or attach it to the enemy combo bar as well. And for all these macros, I just use the Twitch app and download it from the mod section. I think it's the easiest way to track them and update them by far. Overall, the Druid is a great solo class, and I believe the key strengths come from a wide variety of sources, as they should do. And whilst you can't really expect to top meters as a DPS, that alone doesn't count them out. You have plenty of open world options and are great for gold farming as well as in certain aspects of PvP. I hope this helped out. I plan to cover each class in a format similar to this. Of course, it will vary from class to class depending what they are best at. Let me know if there's anything else you would like to be added. I would love to hear you guys' feedback on this. If you like what you see, give the video a like and subscribe as there's plenty more to come. As always, thank you all so much for watching. Take care. Bye.